All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Newt News Podcast. I'm here with Andrew today.
Whoa.
Whoa. Why did I say Newt News? We're talking about dealing the cards. I haven't introed that much lately, in case you haven't noticed. But welcome back to Dealing the Cards. I'm here with Andrew. We're missing Josh today, unfortunately, which is why my poverty intro is happening. We've got a lot to talk about, though. The Cardinals just finished up getting destroyed. Really tough series at home against the Mariners. And then some big personnel changes as well with LaRocque's retirement. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But we'll get into all of that coming up next. All right, Andrew, let's just start with what just happened today. Let's talk about this game. Obviously a tough one. What are your takeaways from today?
Yeah, it was really bad. Seattle is not a team that's known for their offense, mainly for their pitching. And if you allow 5 runs to the Mariners in the first inning, you're probably going to lose the game, and that's what happened. Miles Mikolas was just terrible. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. Sandy's been one of the biggest Miles Mikolas apologists
Hold on.
so far, and I feel like he can't even defend what's been going on today. The offense was fine. Jordan Walker had a nice hit at the end of the game, but other than that, it's just, I think, officially time to just sink the Cardinals' playoff hopes. I think their odds dropped under 1% just the other day, and with this loss, it's definitely not going to get any better. Even with a 17-game winning streak, I don't think really anything can really change at this point. Personnel changes happening, obviously that's good, but you have to wonder when the time is that the Cardinals pull the plug on the season and start letting some of the young kids play, especially from the rotation, because Lance Lynn is supposed to come back next week.
Gosh, no.
I don't know how
Steven
that's going
Matz
to go.
back now too.
Well, Steven Matz pitched today. Actually, he's coming out of the pen.
I know.
So, I mean, I'm not really worried about that at this point, but you have to wonder when it's time for some of the young kids from AAA like McGreevy and Graceffo to get some starting chances down the stretch, because there's not a lot of time left to give those guys run.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Obviously, Matz did pitch today, but he started against Milwaukee last week. So we got to point that out.
It wasn't a terrible start, though. Like, I don't know.
No, it was fine. But it's just more proof that they're obviously not going with the young guys just yet.
Yeah, I think at some point they have to just decide, like, hey, the season's done, and you have to be straightforward with yourself, right? I'm sure I haven't watched Ollie's post game. I'm sure it's happening right now. He's probably going to say something like, "Yeah, we can still keep battling back" or something. Like, the manager can't say that the season's over, but I think deep down the organization needs to be honest with itself and be like, "Hey, 17-game winning streaks happen once every 100 years. It's not going to happen twice in the span of like 4 years. It's just not how this game works." And the fact that we keep bringing it up is honestly kind of ridiculous, because these things just don't happen. And you need a miracle run now, because not only are you chasing the Braves, you're chasing the Mets now, who are both
and the Cubs.
Their wild card spot. Well, the Cubs are around where you're at. Like, it's not like,
well, after today,
yeah,
we're a full game behind the Cubs, which just really sucks. I wanted to finish ahead of the Cubs this year, and
we're gonna just finish, like, just tank and get a nice draft pick.
Yeah,
fun draft stream with Kareem. Like, instead of picking 12th, we can pick like 3rd. That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, and then they'll run up against the new rule where you can't draft in the top 10 too many years in a row.
I think it's the top 5. But I don't know. It's tough, man.
It's not great right now. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I think the big takeaway from today, though, is that they just can't keep going with Miles Mikolas. As someone who's supported him a lot this year, because Miles Mikolas for probably 2.5, 3 months was like a fairly valuable pitcher. For the second half of May, all of June, all of July, and the beginning of August, Mikolas was fine. He had like a 4.2 over that stretch, lots of quality starts. It didn't always look good, but he was getting it done. He was getting out there. He was eating the innings. But the blowups this year have been really telling, and today is just bad. I'm going through the summary of the game today and kind of looking at stuff. Like, he just got ambushed from the rip today. I mean, gave up 5 base hits to start the game. There was this Julio Rodriguez double on a changeup. He just left right over the heart of the plate. Like, you can't be doing that with a dangerous hitter at the plate. And I know Rodriguez has had a down season, but he's probably the best hitter in this Mariners lineup. I know, like, it wasn't technically a hard hit ball, and none of these balls really were that hard hit. But Miles was still making big mistakes. He was leaving stuff right over the middle of the plate. Next up was Cal Raleigh, who looked at strike 3 and it didn't get called. Mikolas didn't get it. But then he left a fastball right over the middle and Raleigh punished him for it. Then arose Arena, a sinker. Miles left up in the zone. You hate when you can't locate that. So it's just all bad. A Luke Raley double, which this one was 108 off the bat. Again, on a sinker, Miles left right in the middle of the zone and up. And then after that was Justin Turner on a sinker, Miles left up again. So he just didn't have anything today. There was no location. He wasn't sharp. His velocity was a little bit down. He just wasn't executing his pitches. And Miles Mikolas is not good enough to have bad days. Like I hate to say it. And there are guys that can do that. Like if Tariq Skubal has a bad day, he's good enough to get guys out by going to his secondary offerings. Miles can't do that. Like Miles has to locate his sinker. It has to be low in the zone and he has to get ground balls. And when he's not doing that, when he's giving up these hard line drives, it's over. And that's what the Cardinals saw today. They were out of it at the end of the first inning. And then Miles went back out there and, got punished again in the second to the tune of 2 more runs. So overall, just a terrible performance. I don't think they should be going with him. I'm not sure what this means for the future of Miles Mikolas. Obviously, he's under contract for another year. I think we should probably have that discussion right now. So, Andrew, what do you think the Cardinals do? Is there a way they can move on from him? I'm hearing people talking about DFAing him on Twitter. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if the Cardinals will ever get there. They don't seem to like to do that. But tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a big market team like the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Yankees or whatever, Miles Mikolas would have been gone before the start of the second half, right? Like it just wasn't looking good. I believe now he's fallen to the worst qualified ERA among starters this year. It's
Patrick
really
Corbin.
not good. Yeah, right. Patrick Corbin was the guy before, and I feel like Patrick Corbin has had some decent starts. It's kind of like Mikolas. I think he leads the team in quality starts, but quality starts, the minimum threshold is 6 innings pitched and then 3 earned runs. That's still not great. That's enough to give you a chance to win. But it's if you do that every start, does that make you a really effective $20 million starting pitcher? No. The idea that has been thrown around, Josh put it in our chat. He can probably articulate it better than I can on later episodes, but trading Miles Mikolas, similar to how the Cardinals dumped Dexter Fowler to the Angels, could be a viable option, right? The Cardinals got nothing in return for Dexter Fowler, and they ate most of the salary. And Fowler played with the Angels for a couple months, and he got hurt and never really played in the big leagues again. And that's totally fine, right? If you want to give another team that's maybe looking for that innings eater a chance, they're not going to take on his entire salary. They're not going to give you anything in return for it. Maybe if you eat the entire thing, they'll give you a lottery ticket prospect. But I don't see the Cardinals getting really anything in return. It's mostly just to dump his salary, whatever you can of his salary onto another team and giving one of your young arms a chance. Because there's these guys in AAA, and Mo might not trust them right now. But I think McGreevy deserves a chance to start. I think Restrepo deserves at least a look, right? These guys,
do something. Let's see it.
A look at
they're on the 40 man.
Yeah, it's not going to be any worse than what Mikolas is going to give you, probably. And if it is, you're not paying them nearly as much. And I understand that Mo doesn't trust any of the depth pieces right now, but do you really trust Miles Mikolas to go out and give you a decent start? Not really.
Not at all.
He has the innings, but this year he's not going to hit 200 innings. He just hasn't been good enough to stay in the games long enough for that. And it's unfortunate, right? I wish we could have spend properly, and there's other guys who could have gotten for 20 million that were a lot better. But I guess we can sort of transition into talking about does DFA Mikolas even make sense? And B, does the Mikolas extension implicate the front office further in that maybe Mo just shouldn't be allowed to make these decisions on who to sign and extend? And because Miles Mikolas isn't a product of failed player development, which is a totally different issue that we can jump into later down the line. He's just a poor extension candidate, right? His 2022 season was pretty good. He was an all-star, but
it was excellent.
It was a very Tyler Anderson-esque all-star season, right? Tyler Anderson was an all-star this year for the Angels. His peripheral numbers were terrible. He's fallen back down to earth in the second half. Miles Mikolas wasn't that bad in 2022.
His peripheral numbers are really good in 22, actually.
Right.
Like
His stuff has never
1.7
been
walks
great.
per 9 is outstanding.
That's fair, I guess. But like a guy like that who's not like a huge strikeout guy, right after the shift ban, getting an extension for as much as he did, never made a lot of sense to me. Out of the
Yeah.
three impending free agents between Montgomery, Flaherty, and Mikolas,
Well,
I feel
Monty
like,
wasn't going to sign an extension.
right.
I think the Cardinals felt that they had to sign somebody. I think they put themselves in a bad
Right.
position where it had to be somebody, and Montgomery wasn't going to do it. And I don't
Yeah,
think
and
Flaherty
like,
was either.
yeah, that would have been, well, I don't know. Maybe it would
It
have
might have been really good.
Yeah. So, but like you look at that extension, it seemed like a desperation move.
It was.
And it just didn't end well because it seemed like you needed to sign one of those three impending free agents to an extension, and you picked the one with the lowest ceiling. And that's kind of what the Cardinals do. They just kind of pick and choose between the guys that they're looking at signing, and they sign the one with a highest floor but the lowest ceiling, right? I feel like this is Miles Mikolas' floor. He's still going to give you solid innings. He leads the team in quality starts, but he's not a good pitcher by any means. Like Jack Flaherty, his floor is absolutely horrible, right? It was a reliever last year with Baltimore.
Awful.
Jordan Montgomery, look what he's doing this year. Like it's been really bad. But yeah, I think it's time to at least. I think it's time to move on. I don't know in what sense. I don't want to see another Mikolas start this season. I would much rather give that opportunity to a McGreevy or a Graceffo. And McGreevy, I feel like I understand you guys were really excited about him. And he had a great first start. But let's not forget that a lot of Cardinals have come up, had one good start, like Daniel Ponce de Leon. Does that ring a bell? He didn't give up a hit in his first
I recall he threw like 120 pitches.
Yeah, look where that ended up. So
he was awful.
I'm not saying it's going to work out, but you're not paying him anything, and it's going to be hopefully better than Mikolas. So
yeah. It's a bummer. They have to move on though, right? The question is, so can the Cardinals move on from Mikolas? And I'm just not sure they can. What are their options here, right? Your options are take another year of Miles Mikolas, which I think we both agree they can't do.
Like Otani just homered 46-46. Let's go.
Wow. Super exciting. Back to things that matter. I'm kidding. Should hit the passing button for that. No, but your options are another year of Mikolas, potential DFA. And if you're going to DFA Mikolas, you might as well do it right now. Like they might as well do it today. Or a trade. And I don't see the Cardinals trading like what does a Mikolas trade even look like at this point?
You dump him to a team that needs an arm. You eat all but like $5 million.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how much do you have to eat? How much do you have to eat? And a trade is definitely better than a DFA because
you have to take on like a Chris Taylor. Like just a horrible contract.
That'd be even worse. That doesn't set the Cardinals up because we're trying to shed payroll. Like if the Cardinals trade Miles Mikolas, they're going to have to eat $13 million probably.
What if you traded him straight up for like a Chris Taylor who's making like 15 or something like that? And like maybe not Chris Taylor exactly, but like someone who's just like another horrible contract. Like, I don't know. It could get like a bunch of players that we don't want to talk about because they're not good at all.
Yeah. Well, I understand what you're saying, but it would have to be a bad contract with 1 year left. Because the Cardinals, like as bad as the Mikolas contract is, it's not nearly as bad as the albatrosses that other teams have to deal with because the Cardinals, it's not a Rendon contract because the Cardinals don't sign guys to 10 years, but it's still bad. And I just am not sure. I think what they should do right now, though, is whether you DFA or trade Mikolas or not this offseason, they probably need to find a way to get him onto the IL. Like I would probably IL Mikolas right now. I'd say, oh no, there's soreness and he's done. And he wouldn't pitch for the rest of this season because it's terrible. And there's no reason in having him out there. You're completely right when you say they've got to give these young guys a shot. And Miles Mikolas, Lance Lynn, Steven Matz, if he gets back into the rotation, which I don't think he will since he came out of the pen today. Although the plan might have been to start him later this week had Mikolas gone longer. But like those three, they don't need to start another game for you. Lance Lynn could probably just get DFA'd. Like he's not coming back. They're not picking up that option. I sure hope not. And Steven Matz, if there's any way to trade him, it just really stinks because the Cardinals have a similar problem to last year where you don't have good pitching under contract for next year, but they have a different problem than last year where instead of having no pitching under contract, they have really bad pitching under contract for next year.
Were you lumping Sonny Gray in on that?
No, I'm not lumping Sonny Gray in. Not yet. There are still a lot of good things about Sonny Gray's season. But between Kyle Gibson, who I think they're going to pick up that option, I've thought about it a lot.
I think they will.
I think they will. And that's probably fine. Like, I think that's below market value. So I think it's fine. I think he would get more money than that on a 1-year deal. But there's a good chance they're going to have Kyle Gibson and Steven Matz and Miles Mikolas back next year. And that's just not a winning rotation. That's not going to win you a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Lynn's already penciled in as a Wednesday starter against
There's no reason they should do that.
I don't know. Like, at this point, it's really frustrating because I want to see these other guys start, and I don't understand why they're still holding on hope. Like, no one's coming to the ballpark, right? I was there on Friday, and it was Friday night, and there was like half the stadium was empty, and
it's terrible.
Like, you're not going to sell those tickets at this point. It's just lost. Like, you can't trick the fans anymore into thinking that, hey, you're going to put out a winning product because, like, barring a miracle, again, like we said, it's not even worth thinking about because these things just don't happen. There's a reason why we have like a 0.6% chance on Fangraphs of making the playoffs. It's just not worth it, right? You, instead of starting Lance Lynn, you can go out and you can give these guys a shot, and it sets you up so much better for next year, right? And if you're going to shed payroll, like, you're probably not even going to be that good of a team next year. And like, what are we doing? Like, do you think Lance Lynn, like, do you think getting that 1 star out of Lance Lynn is going to set you better up to make the playoffs or win next year? No, but if you get a good start out of McGreevy and he gets some confidence and he can fight for a job in spring training next year, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think picking up Gibson's option is fine, right? Because every team needs some of those guys at the back of the rotation. It's just that the Cardinals, if they don't sell on Mikolas, if they don't sell on Matz, then they're going to have 3 of those guys under contract. And then you have Sonny Gray, and you only really have room for 1 more guy in the rotation, and it's probably Andre Palante with the way that the season is gone. So that's the reason I'm hesitant on bringing back Gibson. I think he's a great clubhouse guy. I think he can give you really good starts like we saw yesterday against the Mariners. But again, it's the Mariners who don't know how to hit. And Miles Mikolas just gave up 7 runs in like 2 innings to that team. So I don't know. It's really fun. It's really not fun. Oh, also Eric Fetty. Remember him? He's also on the team.
I forget Eric Fetty exists.
Yeah. Like, it's tough, man. Like, Eric Fetty's probably has the higher ceiling out of all of those guys, but he's still like a 3 at best, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Eric Fetty's not going to be the guy he was with the White Sox next year. Like, it feels like there was a lot of there were things that he did that were really good, and that's why we were happy when the Cardinals grabbed him. It's not like he was having this super lucky season, but it was probably near the top end of his projections.
$6 million next year.
Yeah, so he's really cheap.
Totally
he's really cheap. So it's fine.
Yeah. But before we jump into any of that, we'd like to thank one of our sponsors, 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. 314 Sports Cards is located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, and it's open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9 to 4 on Saturday. If you're interested in trading cards, 314 buys, sells, and trades all sports cards and Pokemon cards as well. They have the newest selection of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. So if you're in the area, you like trading cards, check out 314 Sports Cards. And yeah, we're going to do a little fun pack opening again, just really quick 4 cards with Ellie De La Cruz on the front.
Oh, man.
Which is tough, but I mean, Ellie cards go for a little bit, so let's try.
You guys should go pick yourself up a nice little Lance Lynn card from 314, or maybe an Eric Fetty.
They might just be giving those out.
I can't imagine that would be too valuable.
Look at this.
Reese Olson's great. He's had a great year. That's awesome.
Oh, Ryan.
Oh my goodness. Andrew only gets good cards. He never gets bad players. Okay, maybe you occasionally get bad players.
Pretty good. Keibert Ruiz.
That's all right.
Roger. Yeah.
Started off strong, though. Started off strong with Reese Olson and Ryan Mountcastle.
It's pretty good. All right, so if you want any of these cards, you can go check out 314. Thanks, 314.
Thanks 3 and 4. And thanks, Mo, for signing Miles Mikolas, because now we have this whole problem. I'll ask you this. Do you think there's a path to contention next year for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a way for teams to contend, right? Like, I'm sure the White Sox this season, like, there was a ceiling in which they could make the playoffs, right? They lost 100. They're going to lose like 120 games, but like, I think any team has a chance to make a playoff spot, right? There's so many now that it's not really that difficult to get in, but it requires a lot of things going right. Jordan Walker, first of all, needs to hit his ceiling. Like, he needs to be
Yeah.
like a
Or not
true.
his ceiling, but he's got to be like legit, you know?
Well, the Cardinals need like a superstar, right? Like, they need one
Yeah,
of those caliber of players to be like in contention for a
that's
playoff
fair.
spot. You could get that from Jordan Walker. You could get that from Arenado, and that's kind of it, right? Like, unless Nolan Gorman
Yeah.
becomes a 40 homer player, then maybe he can be that guy. But I don't think they're going to get that from anybody else. Maybe Goldie if he comes back. Oh man, um, that's a whole different discussion. But then you need Sonny Gray to have another All Star caliber season. You need Eric Fetty to be good. You need the rotation to stay solid. I think it will. Like, with the pieces they have right now, if Michaelis is your 5, it's not going to be any worse than this year, probably. I don't know. I hesitate on saying that, but I feel like you're going to find one person to fill out that rotation. People are going to get hurt. Some of the young guys are going to get opportunities. Maybe that's Quinn Matthews. Maybe that's Tink Hence. Probably not Tink Hence next year, but like, there's guys that can fill out the rotation that I think can make it better. But you just need the lineup to do more. And if you're not going to go out and spend on a big bat, you need that to come from inside.
Yeah.
And the only player I really see that having that kind of ceiling is Jordan Walker. And you need Mason Wynn and Burleson to have similar seasons. You need New Bart to stay healthy. You need Donovan to stay healthy and be better. I don't know. I see a path to contention. I don't know if it's for the Central. I don't think the Brewers are going to be this good next year.
I
But
mean,
I
I
think a
hope they
lot of
will
the other
be.
teams are going to be a lot better. I think the Pirates might contend for the division.
The
I think
Cubs will
the
be good
Reds
again.
contend for the division. The Cubs will probably be good again. And I don't know. It's the Central gets tougher and tougher by the year as I look towards the future, because our farm system is pretty good, but it's on the weaker side for the NL Central, I think. So it's going to be tough. A lot of things have to go right, but there is a way to contend.
Yeah. I mean, I also have to wonder, what do they want to drop payroll to? They've talked a lot about like dropping payroll in recent years, right? Especially this year. It seems like they're really set on that. How far do they want to decrease it, and what does that look like for this team? Because I think if they drop payroll significantly, the team has no chance. I'm
Well,
worried
what's
about
going to happen? Like, if they, like, let's say they don't re-sign Goldie, they don't bring back Lynn and Gibson, which honestly is probably for the best. Like, I think Gibson's great, but with the other pieces that you have locked up, you don't really have space for a guy like that. So they don't bring back Goldie. They don't bring back Lynn and Gibson.
But I
Who
think they're
else?
going to bring back Gibson. Like I think they're going to. I wish they wouldn't. I
Okay,
think
but
they
if they
should.
drop payroll, then who else are they going to shed off the roster?
I don't know.
They can't really trade any of their ARB guys because, like, they're in their first year of ARB. Maybe Helsley. I don't know. Honestly,
Yeah,
I'm kind of on the trade Helsley train. I think you can get more for him
you get a
on the
lot for
offensive
him.
side than he's actually worth to you for the last year of his deal. You cut the payroll, and then that just means you don't sign anyone. You don't bring anyone in. You have the same roster, but you have Burleson at first, Gorman at second, Wynn at third, or Wynn at short, Arenado at third. Unless you like dump Gray or Contreras, I don't know who else you could really get rid of. And I think if you trade Arenado, it's not really like, you're not really losing too much if you do that. This
Yeah,
team can make the playoffs without Arenado.
you just don't know if they're going to be able to trade Arenado. I don't know if they're going to. Also, Arenado's only got a cap hit of $21 million next
Right.
year, so
But I'm
that's
just
not.
saying, like, if they cut the payroll that low, like, what, like, I don't see how they get their payroll to be that low, and I don't see how, unless they just completely trade everyone, because most of their contracts right now are bad contracts, right?
Yeah, yeah. The
Sonny
Goldie
Gray is
contract
not
is
worth the
bad.
25 and 35 that he's worth the next 2 years.
He's definitely not going to be worth 35 if he pitches like this again. This is
Right.
probably about a $25 million pitcher. He had really good
So,
performance
like the
this year.
Sonny Gray contract's like a neutral for next year. The Miles
Yeah.
Mikolas contract is bad. The Mats contract is bad. The Arenado contract doesn't look great. So, like other than those contracts, I don't know. Like, there's not any like good contracts that you can shed off the payroll that are going to make you that much worse.
Yeah, that's true. I just am worried that if the Cardinals drop payroll and they're not willing to add more, like if we were talking about this team wanting to have similar payroll to what they have now, I've got it pulled up, right? So this year, they've got a cap hit of $175 million. Total cap allocations, 199. So almost 200 million. And that's 14th in the league. But they're talking about dropping significantly. And you get to do that by getting rid of Goldschmidt. That's 26 off the books. Arenado's deal is actually less next year. And then if you can get rid of the combined 10 million that Lynn and Gibson are costing you, or the combined 22 million that they're costing you, like that's a lot of money, right? That's close to $50 million. And there's a little bit other money that's kind of getting knocked off down here. But you got guys that are getting more expensive in arbitration. They're not going to trade Helsley. And coming into next year, they're already on the hook for $131 million if they pick up these options. We're hearing rumors that they're interested in re-signing Goldschmidt. Like that's all they're going to add. You know, I've been thinking that there's a chance the Cardinals add like an elite pitcher this offseason. Like there are going to be guys out there, and they need to. They totally could. And the worst part is if you could have free pitchers, like other teams do this. Other teams have young guys, like cost-controlled pitchers at the back of their rotation. Look at the Tigers. Look at
the only pitcher they have a chance of adding is Roki Sasaki, and they don't have a chance of adding him.
Yeah, they don't have a chance at that. Like Max Fried is going to be there. And there's a way to add Max Fried to your team and make your team way better. I'm not saying the Cardinals are going to get Corbin Burnes. They should. Because Corbin Burnes is less expensive than Goldschmidt and Lynn put together. Like they could do that and they would be way better off for doing it, but they're not going to. And that's very frustrating. But like Max Fried is going to be much less expensive than him. And he's going to be there. He's going to be on the market. You could add him and your team would instantly become a contender in the National League Central. But they're not going to. And it's just incredibly
what if Max Fried gets hurt and Quinn Matthews profiles as like a high number 2? Like
that'd be awesome.
Possible.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think there's a path to contention. I don't think it's a good path to contention.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
I think it's a lot better if they spend money, but I don't think it's impossible if they don't. Like,
I'd get behind that. It's just the other thing is like there are already like the rotation is very crowded right now. If they don't get rid of anybody, if they picked up every option, which I'm not saying they're going to, but if they did, you'd have Gray, Mikolas, Mats, Lynn, Gibson, Fetty, all up there. They're going to get rid of, and well, yeah, I'm not even talking about Palante.
Right.
But that's 6 like old guys in your rotation. Hopefully they're getting rid of at least 2 of those guys to allow Palante into the rotation. But I don't think they're going to pick up Lynn's option. But like now we're talking about even if they don't pick up both Lynn and Gibson's options and save all that money, you're still barely getting Palante into the rotation. And we're not even giving these other guys a shot. Like there's still no route to McGreevy or Matthews or any of these other guys getting a real chance before their injuries or terrible performance in April and May. And the Cardinals are always slow to make changes in their rotation.
Oh yeah. I mean, could you imagine if they boot Palante from the rotation? I think Mats is a bullpen piece for now, right? I think Mats you have to fight for a spot in the rotation.
If you're going to use Mats as a $12.5 million bullpen piece next year, you've got to trade him.
Yeah, you have to. But
they have to, and they could trade Steven Matz. Like, I don't think it's impossible to get out from under that contract. I think that's about what he'd get.
Yeah.
Look at Frankie Montas. Like, there are other guys that are.
Steven Matz is a much lower ceiling than Frankie Montas. Montas is an all-star at his peak, and Matz was never close to that.
So Matz with the Blue Jays before the Cardinals signed him was a very solid pitcher.
Yeah.
Here, Matz in 2021. 30 starts, 3.82 ERA, 3.79 FIP. By the way, the following 2 years, 3.78 FIP, 3.75 FIP. This is a guy who's been like consistently good. He just can't stay on the field. Obviously, this year, like, he's come off the rails. He's been awful, but it's only 32 innings. Last year, he had a really solid year. He kept his ERA under 4, got over 100 innings, was more than like was definitely worth the $11 million he was paid. They could move on from that contract because that's what like pitchers of his caliber, where it's like this guy has talent but he can't stay healthy,
Yeah.
or we'd have to kind of like fix him. That's what those fixer upper pitchers get. They get 1-year contracts around $10 million to $12 million, and that's exactly what he's getting paid. Like they could trade him. They can't trade Mikolas though.
I mean, they can. They just have to eat part of
Yeah,
his contract.
yeah,
I don't know. I guess we can move into the topic because Gary LaRocque announced his retirement this past week. And we're all frustrated with all these extensions that they're giving out. We're
yeah,
frustrated with the whole front office in general, the whole way it operates.
yeah.
Do you think this, like, because LaRocque stepping down willingly is kind of what we expected from guys like Mo in the front office, and kind of make the way for Heim Bloom to take over or whoever? Like, I'm not going to say that Heim Bloom is guaranteed to take over because I don't think he is. But he's probably the leading candidate to replace Mo at this point. But do you think that Mo, like LaRocque, will step into like some sort of advisory role for next year and kind of finish out his contract a little bit more quietly, or do you think this is just kind of one off, one guy just retiring and not to read too deep into it?
Well, I think there are a couple ways to look at this. One thing that we have to note, it's important to say that like Gary LaRocque is 16 years older than John Mozeliak. So there are different life stages here for sure. Like LaRocque is over 70. He turned 70 last year. He's now 71. It's fair to say that he's moving into his twilight years in terms of his career, and maybe he's stepping away because he's done. You know, John Mozeliak's 55. I think a lot of people think he's older than that. That's not crazy for a baseball executive. He's younger than a lot of managers out there. If you look at a guy like Dusty Baker, or a guy like La Russa, who was, in his late 70s last year with the White Sox. Guys stay around baseball a lot longer than that. So it's not crazy to think that Mozeliak's got a lot of years left. And I don't know. He's been with the Cardinals a long time. It really does seem like he's on the way out, or at least into some other role. But it's hard to say like this is a definitive sign that things are changing. It might be though. It seems like some people think this is really a start of some big changes. And LaRocque was in an important position. So yeah, I hope it's a change for sure. I would love for the Cardinals to go youth movement on the field and youth movement off the field, and kind of move some of these guys out, get a little more, up to speed with the rest of the league and the times, get Heim Bloom into the most important role possible and let him cook. That'd be awesome. But I can't say for sure that like that's definitely the direction they're going. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm on it. I'm not sure like what to make of it. We're just kind of in a holding pattern here. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think there's a chance that LaRocque was stepping down just because he's getting older. He wants to spend time with family or whatever.
Yeah,
The reason is for like baseball executives retiring, but like it seems odd that it would be announced at this point in the season.
that's fair.
It seems a little bit like sudden that it would just come a month before the season ends, right? I feel like if LaRocque was truly deciding to retire or whatnot, probably would have been announced or like in the works for a lot longer than this. It seems like the announcement came out of nowhere, and it's a little bit like I don't know obviously what's going on behind the scenes. The Cardinals are very cagey about a lot of this stuff. But to me, it seems like at least the Cardinals are looking and kind of telling some of these guys like, "Hey, it might be time for you to step down," or kind of like guiding them towards that, because I think they respect a lot of these guys a lot. They've been in the organization a long time,
Yeah,
and they don't really want to fire them, but they're kind of just saying like, "Hey, maybe your time is up." Because he still has another year left on his contract, and he's serving as an advisory role for next year, so he's not retiring like fully until the end of next year. Which
yeah,
is according to the report. That's how I interpreted it. So I think it's possible, and I'm hopeful that Mo will be next and kind of step down alongside LaRocque. Maybe Heim Bloom will step into LaRocque's role. That would be a good way to integrate him into the organization as like a more like formal position before
Yeah, for sure.
fully taking over as the president of baseball operations. Like maybe Mo will hold that role, but Bloom will have like a higher tier role next year before fully stepping into that role. I would like it if they told us. That would be nice if they told us their plan, but they don't ever tell us their plan. So
Yeah.
unfortunately,
There's not a lot of
it's not really
transparency.
going to know. But I
Yeah.
think it's a good first step.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make of it. I just hope that Bloom gets a bigger role soon. That's what I would like to see, you know?
What if it's not Bloom? What if it's Mike Gersh?
Please don't say stuff like that. I hope it's not. I'm not like nothing against Mike Gersh or anything like that. I just think the Cardinals need a new voice. I've been a defender of the front office for the Cardinals for a long time. I would say I've been one of the more, especially on this podcast, I've been a pretty staunch defender of Mikolas. I've been a pretty staunch defender of this team, the front office. But even I'm at the point now where I'm ready to say we need a new voice. This year is really disappointing. This team definitely had the ingredients to win, and they haven't won. And they've lost for a ton of different reasons. We've talked about it, but there's bad player development. There's guys that aren't realizing any of their potential. There's guys that aren't hitting their ceilings. There are veterans on the team that are falling off cliffs. Like Nolan Arenado falling off a cliff at age 32 or 33 is just not acceptable for this team. There's bad extensions that are signed, whether it's Mikolas, whether it's bad deals signed over the offseason. And there's terrible trades that have been made in the past that maybe it's not fair to judge them for the Alcantara Gallen deal at this point. But we're going to keep doing that because it's put them in a terrible spot. You know, they're not winning on the margins. They're not winning out in the open either. They've got to make changes. So that's where I am with it. I'm ready to say it's time to move on from a lot of these executives. And even if it means moving on from Mikolas, it's time for a new voice. I hope this is the start of big changes.
I mean, like the thing is, like people dog us for Alcantara, Gallen, Garcia, Rosarena, or whoever, and some of it's not fair, right?
Yeah,
Garcia,
for
DFA
sure.
by the Rangers.
Yeah, everyone in the league had a shot at him twice.
But like, what would have happened? Like, do you think we really would have cared about Garcia if Dylan Carlson panned out? Do you think we would have cared about Gallen or Alcantara if Flaherty or Reyes panned out? No, we wouldn't, because we would have had the guys that we needed. Like our top prospects would have been there, and they would have done what they were supposed to do, right? Gallen, like those would have just been fun stories.
Well, yeah,
But
I mean, I'll say with Gallen and Alcantara,
yeah,
you would always care about those. Like everyone care if you lose a Cy Young Cy Young winner and a Cy Young candidate in one trade, you care about that forever. The Cardinals will
like the
always be
Dodgers
upset.
lost Jordan Alvarez for Josh Fields,
Yeah,
and nobody really talks about that anymore because the Dodgers have developed guys, and they've
they hit.
signed guys, and they get the production out of the guys that they need, and they make smart decisions, and they have the stars that they need.
No one hates on you when you win. I think that's what you're saying. No one hates on you when you win.
Like
Yeah.
if they had traded Cody Bellinger instead of Jordan Alvarez, like it's the same story, right? Like you lose an MVP candidate, but hey, you got another one right there. And Cody Bellinger didn't pan out for them, obviously, but like there's other guys that have worked out over there. And like teams make bad trades, but not every team makes bad trades and fails to develop their own talent.
Yeah. That's the issue. That's the central issue.
Yeah, it's really tough. They need a change in player development, and hopefully Bloom will lead the charge. Hopefully this is the start of something new.
Yeah. How many big names have the Cardinals had that haven't worked out? And when you start to like list these guys off, right? When you start to think about like Dylan Carlson, utter failure in St. Louis, right? I think it's fair to say that. I think it's fair to start questioning whether Jordan Walker or Nolan Gorman or Lars Nootbaar will live up to their projections. And
Lars Nootbaar was never a top 100 prospect, but
yeah, that's fair.
The other two, I think,
but we've treated Lars Nootbaar as if he's a can't miss prospect over the last 2 years, though.
I mean, he came up as a fourth, fifth outfielder, and then he like sort of was like, "Oh, this guy's pretty good. He hits the ball really hard."
Yeah, he took it and ran with it.
Yeah, so.
But he's a guy that I would say over the last 2 years has developed pedigree, even though he didn't have prospect pedigree. Like it's there. Tyler O'Neill is another example on the pitching side.
Top 10 in MVP voting, so
once,
but it just like it never fully worked out. Man.
Yeah, there's just too many names the Cardinals have had that haven't haven't reached their ceilings or realized their true potential. And, when you have those guys and you mix them in with bad trades, you're right. It paints a picture of incompetence in the front office, and it's clear that something needs to change.
Yeah, and we haven't developed it. When was the last time we had a developed player as an all-star? Was it Aledmus Diaz in 2016 or 2017? I don't know.
It can't be. Well, Tyler O'Neill wasn't
he's
an
never been an
all-star.
all-star.
He wasn't an all-star.
No,
We've had pitchers like Ryan Helsley.
Okay, that's fair.
Alex Reyes. He had one Linsanity run as a closer. Yeah.
I mean, you don't I would much rather my top 10 pitching prospect develop into a middle of the rotation arm than an all-star closer.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the Cardinals haven't developed the last legit pitcher they developed. It's been a long time since that. I mean, you could argue Flaherty, but Flaherty's career here was so marred by injuries and just drama that hasn't worked out either.
So,
yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. It's not fun. And this is probably the episode where we officially bury any and all playoff hopes. Losing this series to the Mariners, it's over. So even for those of you that are holdouts, I was kind of holding out. I thought if the Cardinals win this series or sweep Seattle, they've played really good baseball lately, but it's done. Season's over. They're done. We're thinking about next year now.
Yeah, it's time for McGreevy.
I would love to see Michael McGreevy. So if you were in charge of the team, what would you do? More than just play the young guys. Give me some tangible things that you would do down the stretch. Who are you pitching? Who's getting at bats?
Siani's my fourth outfielder. Victor Scott's going to play every day.
Okay.
I'm calling Nolan Gorman back up. He's kind of on a heater in AAA right now, and he's going to play every day at second.
Okay.
Donovan's kind of injured right now. I don't know what's going on. He has a foot infection, I think is what I saw. That sounds bad, but he should probably be fine. I'm going to see what I have in Luke and Baker. He's going to play every day against lefties. Burleson's going to see a lot more time at first. Goldie's going to kind of DH for me a lot. Ivan Herrera is going to catch every day. Pedro Pajes should not be catching right now, please. Just
how about that Pajes homer the other night, though? We haven't talked about that. That was a fun one.
That was cool. But whatever you got out of Herrera, I'm going to see it. He has more value than Pajes.
Oh, for sure. They're not the same player.
And his arm is bad, but I don't really care if you're giving up a bunch of steals when you're not trying to win games, right? It doesn't really matter. I would play Herrera over Pajes to see what you got. Also, Pajes isn't that much better at allowing or at preventing steals. It's not that big of a difference. I would phantom Mikolas.
For sure.
I would put Lynn back on the IL because I think he's still kind of hurt. I think he's coming back to give the team a chance or something.
If he pitches through an injury, that is beyond stupid.
He's going back on the IL. And I'm plugging probably Graceffo and McGreevy back into the rotation to try to see what I got with those two. And if one of them, if Graceffo has just a horrible start, maybe you can try Kloffenstein or one of the other AAA arms that I haven't mentioned. I think they're all in the 40-man now, so you're not really losing out on any of those guys. And then just kind of rolling with the bullpen. Riley O'Brien's been really disappointing. He just hasn't looked good at all since coming back to St. Louis. But I don't know. He's a Heimblum guy. We'll see what we got out of him next year, I guess. See if he can earn a bullpen spot in spring training. I don't know. Are there any bullpen guys that really shouldn't be there?
Not really. I'd be letting them all get opportunities. I think I mostly agree with you. I would consider just DFAing Lance Lynn right now. I don't see why you don't.
It doesn't matter. Maybe just give him a farewell speech. Bring fans into the ballpark on the last week. Be Lance Lynn, you're retiring, and you're going to give a speech on your time in St. Louis. Maybe we'll bring back Yachty too to surprise him and give him a hug.
Do you think Lance Lynn's done, or does he play again next year?
I don't know.
I think Lance Lynn plays again next year. I don't think he's going to be in a Cardinals uniform, but he's getting a contract.
For who? Who's going to want Lance Lynn?
The same team that you've been saying would want Miles Mikolas? Absolutely. Lance Lynn was mostly fine this year. Obviously, there have been blow-ups, and the final product isn't awesome. But he's a 0 WAR pitcher with a 4.06 ERA, a 106 ERA plus.
I guess.
He's given him over 100 innings. it hasn't been that bad. He's allowed
Maybe.
like the home run rate is high, but not nearly as high as it was last year. It's actually not that bad. It's really not that bad at all. His
Oh, also
strikeout
the
rate
last
is
game of the season, I'm
fine.
batting Matt Carpenter leadoff.
Yeah, that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly with you. But yeah, I would consider getting rid of Lance Lynn. Maybe just Phantom IL him. Who cares? Phantom IL Michaelis for sure, and be trying to figure out how you move off that. Steven Matz, like you don't need to see Steven Matz. I don't need to see
I
anything from
guess.
him.
Build up his value a little bit in the bullpen. Show that he's still got a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, maybe in the bullpen, but he's not starting for me. And I'm rolling with Gray, Fetty, and then maybe Gibson, but I'd rather not have Gibson. I'd rather have Palante, McGreevy, and Graceffo. And I'd rather give a spot start to somebody else too. Kloffenstein could get a spot start for me. Reverse is on the 40-man and can get a spot start for me. So I'd be fine with either of those options. And then you're right. I'm definitely giving Victor Scott at bats over Ciani. I don't know if I'd be playing Goldschmidt or Arenado that much at all. Personally, I'd love to see Donovan at third base once he's fully healthy and just kind of, I don't know. You have to play Arenado, but like, I don't want to. I want to see what I get with these young guys because I'd much rather be able to get Burleson and Baker into the lineup at the same time. I think my goal would be to give them both everyday at bats. It'd be nice to see Gorman again. I understand.
I don't think
Baker
down
in AAA though.
Righties.
Baker's. Let him try.
I've
let
seen
him try.
He's like, I think he's like 1 for 18.
Oh,
already. Like it's bad.
Well, he's good in AAA against righties. I know it's not the same thing, but let him try. Give him an extended run because you might find something out. You might realize, or he might have value to be traded next, like over this offseason. If he has a good September. And I would trade Luke and Baker if it meant you could bring back something of value.
But like then who, like, do you just have Goldie back as at first?
No, I really don't want to have Goldie back at first. Burleson probably.
I don't think Luke and Baker is going to get you anything more than a reliever.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So I wouldn't do it. So yeah.
Last thing, maybe. What do you think the outlook is for Marmol? Is there any way he's the manager next season?
I really like Ollie.
I know. I kind of like him too. He's really grown on me this year.
I don't think he's the problem, and I think people like. I went around Busch Stadium and I interviewed a bunch of fans, and kind of asked people like, "Hey, like you'll see this on our Instagram and like socials and TikTok and whatnot in the next coming days." But like I asked people like, "How do the Cardinals improve for next year?" And a lot of people were like, "Fire Ollie," and I was like, I don't think that's the answer. Right?
Yeah, I don't
Ollie's not the one. Ollie Marmol is not the one telling Goldie to ground into double plays when the bases are loaded, right? Like
nobody's done that. Yeah.
And if you think that you are smart enough to like bench Goldie or put him low enough in the lineup where he's not getting those opportunities, then good for you, right? Maybe you should apply to be a manager. But I don't think anybody could have seen that coming, right? Paul Goldschmidt is a future Hall of Famer. Nolan Arenado is a future Hall of Famer. Those two are the reason that we haven't won this year, right? The pitching has been fine. I think his bullpen decisions are mostly fine.
I think they're really good most of the time, actually. Especially when he had good relievers over the first 4 months. It was outstanding. Our bullpen was fantastic when we were contending.
Right, and I think he makes good decisions most of the time, and I think his attitude is right. He's all for bringing in guys that could potentially replace him. Like, he's said that multiple times, right? That's why he brought in Skip Schumacher. That's why he wanted Molina on his bench this year. Obviously, that didn't happen, but that's not his fault that Molina decided to bail out on him. Again, Holiday, kind of a similar situation. But, man, the comments are driving me crazy. But I think yeah, no, I don't think Marmol's the issue, right?
I think I'm with you.
Like, he gets a lot of flack. I understand it, and that's just how managers go. And if he gets fired, I'm not going to feel like it was the wrong decision. But I don't know. I want to see him stay. I think he's done a lot for this organization, and we parted ways with Schilt in a messy way. I don't want to do that with Marmol because I don't think Marmol really deserves it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't think it'd be fair to do that to Ollie. I just don't think it's his fault. I don't know what he's supposed to do at this point. Like, he's not the one. He doesn't go up there and swing. He's not the one taking these terrible at bats. I mean, J. Cole, I see what you're saying, where it's like Michaelis shouldn't be pitching, but what are you going to do? Like, he doesn't get to
I
choose who
don't think that's
pitches.
Ollie's decision.
It's not. I don't think Ali fills out the rotation. And if he does, what are you going to do? Michaelis is on your team. Like, you don't get to cut Michaelis. Marmol can't go to the front office and be like, you get rid of Michaelis, or like, I'm quitting. Because they would say, okay, quit. Like, see you later. Take a hike. Um, it doesn't work that
And
way.
Michaelis has been like I think his last start was okay.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, but like this start was like we'll see what happens with the rotation next time, right? He's not the one. Graceffo and McGreevy are not on his roster. Who is he going
I,
to start that's on the active roster over him? Steven Matz? Sure.
well, and
Right?
and so here's
Maybe.
the question that I want to ask with here is like, if Michaelis isn't pitching, who's pitching? Who's got enough rest to actually pitch?
Nobody's
Maybe
on the roster that can start this.
exactly. Marmol doesn't get
He
to
doesn't
call
do that.
guys up from Memphis. He can't do it.
No.
I wish he could, because I think part of him would want to. I think part of Ali, like he wants to win. I think he would happily say, "Yeah, we're starting McGreevy today," but he doesn't get to do that. And like, is Matt's the second worst starter on the team? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of bad starters on this team. But who's going to relieve him? Like, and and I mean, if you're saying that that's the reason they lost, like, yeah, they lost because Michaelis sucked. But the game was already over at the end of the first. Like, what do you want them to do? They can't just go with Helsley in the second inning. And when they're down 7-0 after the second inning, the game's over. You know, no amount of good managing can fix that game. There's nothing he could do to change that game. I don't know. I think there are games that he has lost for the Cardinals, but I think those are few and far between. I think there are a lot more games where he's made all the right decisions.
I disagree with this
He's
sentiment
gotten
that Ollie
ejected a
doesn't
lot.
know. He got ejected, and then the Cardinals were the best team in the NL for like 2 months after that. Remember that in Milwaukee on Mother's Day? Like, I think he knows how to fire the team up. That's why I like him. I like his ejections. They're fiery.
Yeah. I mean, I see this. I understand the comparisons to Schumacher, because it feels like they could have had Schumacher as the manager, and they probably could have before they went with Marmol. But let's be real. The Marlins had the luckiest season in MLB history last year. Like, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that Jake Berger is not an MVP and he played like one for several months. You know, it's tough because the Marlins aren't good this year. And like, okay, he told them to shove it, but like, what did that do for them? It didn't change anything. All it did was the Marlins moved on from people in their front office. And I'm not sure it was specifically for Skip. I think he's a lame duck who's going to be let go of at the end of this year. Now Peter Bendix is there, and they're worse. Like, the Marlins' future outlook is worse now. They've gotten rid of contracts that they had on the books, and their 2023 playoff roster is like dismantled. So I just don't know. I understand why there's frustration with Ali. Like, I understand why there's general frustration with the team, and he's a really easy person to throw blame on. I don't think it's his fault. Look at us going to bat for Ali. How crazy is that?
Guys, Jack Flaherty is pitching into the 8th inning for the Dodgers right now.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Well,
is there anything else to talk about today?
Pick a playoff team to root for this year.
I'm not picking a playoff team. I'm sad.
Fair enough.
Is there really anything else to talk about today, or have we basically covered everything between front office changes, the Miles Mikolas situation, and pitching for next year?
I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We're going to be here covering these front office changes twice a week for you on Wednesdays and Sundays, as always. It might not be that fun of an off season, but stick with us. I think we're entertaining enough to make this at least bearable. So if you're enjoying this, give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep doing this. Check out 314 Sports Cards. We didn't actually plug it, but if you want to go to one of these games and maybe watch this team, you can use code NewtNews on SeatGeek. Just $10, I think. Is it $10 or $20? I think it's $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. I don't do these. This is what Josh is for. So it's a bit of a mess today. But hopefully he's enjoying watching Caleb Williams. Maybe you can do that too with SeatGeek. There you go, Josh. I plugged it for you. So there you go.
Josh isn't here to defend it, but Caleb Williams was terrible in his debut today. I know the Bears won, but Caleb Williams deserves none of the credit. That defense was great. Caleb Williams was terrible. Sorry, Josh. I hope you see that, though.
All right. But that's it. Yeah. If you enjoyed, subscribe, hit the like, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.